I grew my hair out long and I'm getting like super spiritual. I didn't want to touch anything that had a negative energy to it. Mm-hmm. Business partners, friends. I'm like, man. Before, I don't want to use the word tolerate in a word that's bad, but you might be with somebody and you're like, you're cheating on your wife, but I love you as a friend. So I'm going to be around you. I stopped all of those relationships. Yeah. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Hi, and welcome to the Flat Bill Investors Podcast. I'm Josh Siglowski.
I'm Zach Spencer. Welcome, and thanks for tuning in today. We are particularly thrilled and blessed today to be surrounded by somebody who has a title that I have not heard much of before, a systems architect. It's a great title to have. And in meeting this guy, I have learned a lot of great things. We're really, really pleased to have with us the founder, CEO, president, guru of Jedari. We have Greg with us today. Greg, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and let's dive right into it.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate being on here. Love the whole premise of the show and the introductions of just business and just open conversation, because this is what we really want, is open dialogue.
We're kind of
totally
tired of people just giving you lip service, right?
Yeah.
Greg Anderson. I'm the CEO of Jedari. Systems architect just means I build the hows and the whys that things work. Like if I were an engineer and I'm building, a widget that has all the sockets or a watch, somebody had to design all those cogs. And when that one thing doesn't work, you learn how to swap those things out. And so I do that with technology. I do that with health and fitness. I do that with spirituality. It's the systems of how our reality works.
And you said it's been 20 years?
Yeah.
What did you do before and what got you into that? Did you just kind of know, kind of figure it out, this is one of my abilities?
No, I was the guy in junior high, grade school, high school, which was in resource classes for everything. I didn't understand what dyslexia was at that point in time. And my high school guidance counselor said, hey, you know what? Construction and labor, that's a good job. College isn't for everybody. So I was like, oh man, maybe that's it. And I went into that life for a while.
Yeah.
Ran heavy machinery, built, homes and buildings and these types of things. And then one day I'm in Texas and I'm working for a company where I would go into Walmarts. I would rip down the old food court signs, paint the walls and put up new signage. And it was a horrible job. It's $9 an hour. I'm driving 400 miles a day because I'm doing this bottom west side of Texas. And I keep watching these infomercials from this guy that we know now as Tony Robbins. And I was just in a really desperate place. And I bought one of the programs.
Back when it was Anthony Robbins, probably, huh?
Back when it was Anthony Robbins. This was Unleash the Power Within.
You'll love it.
I studied that course like crazy, but it was audio and written with a little bit of video because video wasn't as cool back then. And by the time I was done with that 30 days, I'm like, wow, how do I understand these really complicated processes where I had a hard time reading in high school?
Yeah.
And I started looking in that process and looking through that world. And at one point in time, I was, doing some research and I was like, what is dyslexia and that thing? And I took some tests and I'm bidirectional. So it means my B's and D's switch. And sometimes if I'm reading, say, body lotion, I'll just see baby lotion. The brain just covers over the top. And it was through that that I started going and learning more about how that brain is hardwired in that moment. Mm-hmm. And learned that, oh my gosh, it wasn't that I was dumb. I just didn't learn how to operate my brain.
Yeah.
And that started this process. And it's been one of my biggest superpowers is I wasn't classically trained the same way. And my brain doesn't operate the same way like a computer programmer would. Mm-hmm. I look and see how things should fit. And most of my processes, how I operate are slightly different. So it helps me get places that other people can't. Or don't. Yeah.
Well, it seems like you got, even just from the little bit we've talked, a vision of seeing how things work and talking about cogs in a clock, and that somebody's got to build those and make sure, they pressure test those and fit them, that you're able to kind of see that and really quickly learn that, that came from not just by accident, but you actually have some training, some things you've done. So tell us a little bit about back in the day. You mentioned going to China and Mexico and
well, yeah.
Well, and maybe not China, but at least Mexico. Tell us about that a little bit.
It was about 13, 14 years ago. I'm going through a divorce and I'm learning maybe I'm not seeing life in a certain way. At this moment in time, I'm in the bishopric of the LDS church. I served in, my temples and did the things in the morning. And I felt like I was looking at life through like a keyhole where I could kind of see, but there was more to learn. And I just was like, hey, you know what? I've never studied other religions and I've never studied other belief systems of other cultures. So why don't I do that? My first one that I picked up at that moment was Buddhism. And I picked up this book called the Dhammapada. And in the Dhammapada, it talks about this being, his name was Krishna. And Krishna is basically the Christ of the Buddhist religion. He's a Christed figure, right? Mm-hmm. And I learned so much from that culture. And I learned a lot about my Christian upbringing from a different culture. I was like, wow, I did learn a lot.
Right.
And it was kind of started tearing through it at that moment. And I called a buddy of mine because he was teaching MLM. I see it as he was teaching them how to meditate. He said something else. He's peak performance. And I called him. I was like, hey man, will you teach me to meditate? And he's like, nah, go buy a book. And he operated his company off of this software company I had back then. And a week later he called and he's like, hey, I have this idea. I want to create this men's only personal development company. And it was originally around a multi-level marketing company. I was like, I'm not interested in that, but I am interested in this, coaching.
Yeah.
And that's what became Wake Up Warrior. That was Garrett White.
Cool.
And so that first pod of Wake Up Warrior was him, myself, and 4 other guys. And we spent a few years really diving through just how we think and operate and what happens when somebody's going through a divorce, what happens when somebody's going through bankruptcy, and are there ways to, pull life together? Are there like certain systems?
Yeah.
And all of these trainings, you layer that on top of that, other cultures, I just started traveling. I'm like, wow, there's a group in Italy called the Damanhurian that built these massive cathedrals underground without anybody ever knowing about them. These are huge temple complexes. They moved 2 million buckets of rock by hand.
Wow.
Nobody knew about it.
And see, I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of it either.
So
what's the actual religion?
The Damanhurians.
The Damanhurians?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And you go in and it's like Indiana Jones to get in there. Wow. It's like a hidden doorway that you have to have the button. You know where to click it. It moves these 2-ton boulders with elevator shafts.
And are you going there with this group, or are you going there by like just with a couple buddies or something?
I went there with a group of people that were going. I knew them from the US and they shared with me who they were. I'm like, oh, I want to go learn.
That's so cool.
And their temples are stunning. They're like mosaics and marble and hand-blown glass.
But it's all underground.
All underground. Stories and stories and stories, like levels of things underground.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot from their culture, and man, they're super close to the LDS faith. They live the law of consecration. If you're familiar with that, they live it there. Everybody shares everything. And so I just would find places like the Ashayan monks or them, and would go, I want to go learn, or go stay with a family in Colombia that's deep jungle that all they do is serve ayahuasca. Mm-hmm. And go stay with them for a few weeks and learn their culture, or partake of, their medicine, other people, or meditation or breath work like we talked about. And it was just learn. And it kind of became it wasn't a fascination, but it became a driving force, because I was looking for that underlying information of all religions and people. Like, we've all been here for a long time. All religions come from somewhere. Like, where's the commonality? Mm-hmm. And that was really what pushed.
I'm just listening to this going, okay, would I have like the driving force to like make some of these big changes? I think, I can speak for myself. I get comfortable. I live here. I've got my house here. Mm-hmm. My routine is this. Like, those are pretty wild swings. And so what gave you kind of I guess maybe not the motivation, but what gave you the ability to like stick with that? Was there some sort of driving force?
Yeah, as you say it, the word that keeps coming up was fear. I was just really scared of being stagnant. And I didn't come from like a family that knew a lot of wealth. And so I made a lot and I instantly lost it in like 2 years. And then I made it again and I lost it again. I'm like, man, now I'm divorced and I've been a millionaire twice. I've lost it twice. Like, there's things that I just don't understand. And I knew that I believed anyway, because I have a deep faith. I believed that information was out there. I just had to go find it. And so it would drive me. And I've been lucky enough, or I just work hard enough, that I made decent money and make good money. Even when it's down, it's there. And I would spend it on investing that in me and my experiences more than something else.
How long would you be like, because you'd mentioned before that you lived with the Mayans. Mm-hmm. What was the longest amount of time you were gone? Like outside the country, or?
Yeah, probably at one point in time, just gone for probably maybe 2 months at a time.
Okay.
It would be like I started this journey. I had a moment in time where I could be nomadic. I sold my house. I sold the Ferrari. I sold the limo, all the things that I thought would be really cool to have here in the US. Because I built it and I was like, oh, this is great. I'm living my MTV lifestyle. And I was like, ah, man, I'm just not happy.
Yeah.
What is it?
No, we talk about it all the time. You have, famous actors, musicians who seem to on the surface have it all. And you go, what could possibly be your problems? And then they end up dying by suicide, or it comes out that they're miserable and they have everything on the surface, but they haven't found that happiness. And I guess, let me ask you this, as you made that, how old were you when you feel like there was a big pivot?
Probably around like 36, 37.
Okay. And see, and I think that's, I was really curious to ask that, because I think some of us, me included, I'm 40 and I go, okay, am I too old to make some of these changes or to learn some of these new things? Am I just going to be stuck with what I got? And at 36, you're making some pretty life-changing, pivots.
And the thing is too, you mentioned to me, not on the show, but how many kids do you have?
5.
5. So you're going through this divorce. I mean, people that knew you before this journey to like maybe 3 or 4 years after, where they're like, oh my gosh, Greg, you've changed. Like, was it very noticeable, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones?
Yeah, quite a bit. The loved ones are pretty close. So at this point in time, I'm a divorced dad and my kids are getting older. And when you do that, you just start losing time. You're like, oh, I get them every other weekend and once on Wednesday. But then now they're in high school and there's things going on, they're friends. And then it would be like they come for a couple of days. It takes you a day to sync with somebody. Yeah. And then the next day they're going home. I'm like, man, this isn't working. So I'm looking at all of these life things. And I'm like, I have an opportunity. So I went to my former and her husband and was like, guys, I have this opportunity. I'd like to create some space, but here's what I'm willing to do. And you tell me if you're down with this. And I talked to the kids. Are you down with this? I'm going to go for say 3 weeks to a month. And I'm going to come back. I'm going to lease a house in Park City that's close in your neighborhood. I'm going to have you come and stay with me for a week. So instead of going every other weekend and once a week, I'm going to compact all of that into like real time where I can take you to school and I can do things and it's just you. And then I'm going to be gone. You can get a hold of me on the phone, but I lived in Salt Lake. They lived, or West Jordan or South Jordan. They lived in Park City. So the time wasn't working. And just how my mind operates, I'm like, great, can I compact something and put it here and have experience?
Yeah.
And that's really what drove that. And so the family was super open to it. I grew my hair out long and I'm getting like super spiritual. I didn't want to touch anything that had a negative energy to it. Mm-hmm. Business partners, friends. I'm like, man. Before, I don't want to use the word tolerate in a word that's bad, but you might be with somebody and you're like, you're cheating on your wife, but I love you as a friend. So I'm going to be around you. I stopped all of those relationships. Yeah. I just couldn't do it anymore. It was a process, but I would go, and there was a couple of times where I was probably gone for like 2 months and I would come back for a week to 2 weeks and then I would go back in.
Yeah, this is fascinating. You just don't meet a lot of people who've been able to do that. I think that, I've been around a lot of people who do breath work and ice baths and meditation and even into like Kundalini and, some of these kind of what you would like here would be a little more wild or eccentric, I guess. And hearing some of this is it's kind of motivating to go, okay, like how can I make a shift? And even if it's as small as, hey, let's adjust our schedules a little bit. And I think that's where thinking about the word systems architect to me, you're seeing these little tweaks that you go, okay, this will really help things be a little more smooth. And I think that's kind of motivating to know that like, it makes me just have some introspection in this moment of, okay, what small things can I tweak? Yeah. Or can I do to maybe achieve some of the things that I'm looking for, let alone, seeing these big changes you've made. That's great. And really being your authentic self, which is quite motivating.
I think that was the point, was trying to find the authentic self. Like there's a conversation I have all the time with me and when I'm speaking or just talking, which is just stripping it down. How do I strip that thing down? One of the hardest things I did through that whole process was, I think the goal of our lifetime, if you read any old scripture and it talks about becoming like a little child, it's not about being naive. It's that all of us had the same conversation when we grew up. We knew nothing. Our minds were blank. We came out and everything we learned is from the people around us. Yeah. We mimic them. We learned how to speak because if I were born in China, I wouldn't be speaking these words, right? Sure. I would be speaking their language and have a different culture. And most of the time, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, we're learning all of these processes about money and love and life from people when we were young going, oh, that's what that means. And we store that in our subconscious mind. And for the rest of life, we're like, how do I unwind that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to act like my dad did in that situation, but I was trained that way. So can I go through a process of unwinding it? And so most of the time, the hardest things, we're going, if I remove one more part of my personality, who will I be?
Yeah.
Like, Greg will die. Like, he's never coming back. And he
Greg might
didn't.
die. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't come out of the jungle. Somebody else did, but that was the authentic self. Everything else was the programmed person. Told me how to look and how to think. And you have to have this much money for somebody to love you or whatever that thing is.
So let's talk about Jedari a little bit.
Yeah.
Did that name come from anything that you've learned spiritually? Like, where does that name come from?
It comes from probably 9 or 10 years ago. I'm with a spiritual group of friends. We're in California and there's probably some LSD involved. And I told the guys, you know what I really want? I want to wear like a Jedi level tunic, but it's designed by Armani. Like something that's like comfortable. It looks cool, like a Jedi, but it's that nice. And we were going through names and one of my friends walked in. He's like, Jedari, like that's your clothing brand. And so I've held that ever since. And Jedari to me now means Jedi level technology wrapped in the elegance of Armani. Because what we do is very difficult, but it's very beautiful. Like it's easy to use, great interfaces. And that's like our core.
Well, all you have to do is go to your website. And the second you pull up the website, you go, man, this is clean. Like it's just super clean, super classy, very efficient. Great job at embodying that.
And you said, I don't know if it was on the show or before, but you said Sean, your partner, was doing something with different Facebook to emails and came to you about like finding something, and you already kind of had an idea.
Yeah, tell us about that a little bit. Recant that.
Yeah. So, and this is pretty globally for any type of community or a group of people that serve communities. Like you guys serve a community, right? An inherent problem was happening in 2019, and then it got really bad as we just saw through the election cycles and things, which are, I have a message that I want to give to the world. Can I give that without being censored or banned?
Yeah. Can
Can I speak? And we have lots of friends through the world that would say what they want to say, and they were in the public sphere and they would get canceled.
Yeah.
Like I have a friend that's a musician and he lost his record label. He lost all of his social media accounts, all these things. So Sean was going, hey, I have this coaching company where I coach one to many. You know, I have 100 or 1,000 people that log in once a week and watch this, but there's no integrations because he's doing it through Facebook and private groups. There's no integrations between money or analytics and fulfillment. He was losing all kinds of money and communications and problems, and it was very time consuming. So he said, can you build something to help me where I can run my company and I just go live, but billing is integrated, emails are integrated, push notifications, learning management systems. It's like all of the things that you could put together in one. And my original answer was, no, it's too big for one company. And then that turned into, okay, can I build a tool that builds these community platforms? It's like, if I'm going to build a car, I have a choice. I can make one car or I can build a factory that builds cars. So I built a factory that builds community-driven brands. So I white label it to everyone, but my factory, that thing, manages everybody else's technology so I can do it for less.
So is there like a limitation on which industry you're in? Or could you be in really any industry and have some options?
Yeah, it's a great conversation because I can serve any community, but there is a fact that if you serve everybody, you serve nobody. Right? You have to build a marketing niche.
Yeah.
Coaching is a big niche. Podcasting is a big niche. Musicians. And then from there, it's companies like a network marketing company that just has a lot of people, door-to-door sales, where they want to manage all of the communications to their people in their own environment. When you're spending a lot of money to build something and you have to share that person's data, their name, their email, the things they like with another company, you're losing money.
Yeah. So
we built it so that from the ground up, so that when somebody works with us and we give them a white label, they own everything. The data, the emails, the connection points, the information, nobody touches that. And our tech wraps it so that somebody can't steal it, or a government can't say, hey, doctor, you do stem cells and we're going to sue you and take your license away if you talk about research in the outside environment, but inside of their white label Jedari, they can actually have conversations. So we make sure that they can't.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
that's
how long has Jedari been around?
3 years now.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. Launched the first MVP in January of 23, and then just keep building.
That's awesome.
Can I unwind it just a little bit? I've got a question I'm dying to ask you. Is what's one thing that I could do today that would help adjust my path toward gaining some of that authenticity? As you've been around and coached, what's one piece of advice you give me or give Josh here that we could do, or any of our listeners?
One is like, it's a framework. It's because for me, I have to be able to understand a concept to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking a little bit before the show, and the way that I operate is I try to strip down whatever's in front of me to the lowest common denominator. It just means like, if I'm in a house and people are sick and we get mold detected, my job isn't to paint over the wall to protect me from the mold on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to rip and gut the whole thing and build it back up.
Sure.
So that concept, when we're like, hey, what's one thing I can change? It might not be the wrapping. It might not be the amount of money I have in the bank account. It might just be my thought process, my belief system around that money piece. My last year that I spent with the Mayans, I did a 14-hour-a-day meditation practice. And there's just one way I did it. And I'm just going to teach it to you right here, because it's the most powerful thing that you can do. And basically, you sit down, you turn your phone on for a 5 or 10 minute meditation, whatever you can do. Close your eyes, and about 6 to 8 inches in front of your face with your eyes closed, you're just going to imagine a clock, a round one with numbers. It's not digital, so it goes noon, noon to 3, all the way around. And as you do that, you put the big hand and the little hand, you just see them, and your whole job is to hold them at 12 o'clock. That's it. You're fighting all of the thoughts that are like, how much money is in the bank? What problems do I have? Did I answer those emails? The things that drive most people. And we burn so much creative energy thinking the same thoughts all day long. Science says we have 80,000 thoughts a day. But what if you could spend 5-10 minutes exercising the mind, just like if you were going to go to the gym and you bench press the first time, you're not really strong at it. But if you can exercise that, so when you want to hold focus, you're like, hey, what's that one thing in my life that would make me feel better today? If you're thinking 80,000 thoughts, how can you? But if you can strengthen that a little bit, pull that down to 70,000 thoughts, now you have 10,000 thoughts open for you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that. I'm going to challenge anybody listening to write to us somewhere, whether it's on your Instagram or Facebook or ours. So if you try this, if you're listening, watching, I'd love to hear how it goes, because that's a pretty,
I can already
pretty
tell you,
simple way.
I'm going to be doing it tonight.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be doing it. I'll let you know.
Challenge accepted.
Yep, 100%.
30 days. Give yourself between 5 and 10 minutes, whatever you think that you can have, and the most miraculous things will come from it. Especially high producers, because I've never taught a high producer that didn't call me in like 3 days and go, bro, that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So the clock challenge, we're going to issue the clock challenge today to anybody listening, and then let us know, because I will be letting you know, because I will be doing that sometime today. I think Josh will too.
Yeah, I know.
No, I love it. So I'm motivated and feel great. I appreciate the conversation today. This has been awesome.
Yeah. So glad that you're on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I appreciate you.
Okay. We'll have all your info down here, but if you want to reach out to Mr. Anderson, Greg Anderson here with Jedari, we'll have some links to reach out and check out the website. Like I said, if you want to see something super clean and something very nice pleasant to the eyes, it's Jedari. I think it's just jedari.com.
Yep.
Yeah, easy. So appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, thanks for being on the show and listening to the show today. Flat Bill Investors Podcast. Invest in your future.
Invest in yourself.
This is the Flat Bill Investors Podcast, signing off.